Hello, this is Jeremy from Printrbot.com here at Printrbot headquarters. We're going to go ahead and show you the volume upgrade on your Printrbot Simple. And we are going to start with the XAxis. So go ahead and get your packaging and let's open it up. I got a little trick here that I can show you. If you have a power drill, I'm going to just open it up, because this you can do one way, is turn clockwise by hand, and that will raise it up. Or you can go ahead and take this, open him up, put it on tight. So that speeds up the process for you. I'm going to go ahead and turn it around right now. And what I'm going to do is take my micro cutters and cut off these zip ties that are holding the XAxis Acme rod to the XAxis motor shaft. So now I'm going to lift that off there. Okay, so I took the rod off, a threaded rod, and you can reuse this vinyl tubing if you want. If you don't want, we included looks like an extra one in the pack, the upgrade pack, so you got a brand new one here if you want to do that. So I'm going to pull this up and off. Got to make sure that all the cabling is going to allow me to do that. The one that won't is actually the Y-axis motor, so make sure that it's disconnected from all power, because I'm going to remove this power cable, this motor cable, from the electronics board. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now, so that I can remove it fully off of the XAxis. So there we go. Now I am still limited to, I can't just put it wherever I want. Kind of have to put it right there. But what we need to do now is remove these 10-inch smooth rods off of the bot and replace them with our new 13-inch smooth rod. So there's a couple different ways we can do this. One way that I'm going to try is just by pressing and trying to slip it out. That's not going to work. And so now I'm going to need to get a little hammer. I got a punch now, so I can go ahead and just hit that rod, not hit any of the wood around it. There we go. That is free. No free at last jokes there. Okay, now I'm going to take my new 13-inch smooth rod. Pretty much just going to walk it in there. There we go. My next one. And put it in there. Now if you have the holes for the M3s, now you would secure that back in. Now the trick of this is going to be being able to get it back on there with this new taller. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to free up this point right here, the top corner of the electronics board. I'm going to free that so I have a little more room with these cables, and I got enough zip ties in the volume upgrade pack that we got, that I'll be able to re-secure that. So now I got plenty of room to come up here and put it on this. There we go, that's nice. Look at how tall you're going to be able to print now. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get the threaded rod out of here, the volume pack. And what I do is I just usually thread this by hand. Just go ahead and thread it in there in the vinyl tubing, just by hand. There we go. And I want to go about halfway, because the other half I want to be the motor shaft, so I can zip tie it on there. So actually, I think ease of assembly is to go ahead and put this zip tie on, so you don't have to do two. down in that tight area. So there we go. And if you have one of these guns, go ahead and use that and it'll come apart. It's a nice feature. Again, we got plenty of extra zip ties in here, which is nice. Okay, there you go. Cut it off with your micro cutters. Raise this up. Might even need to take it all the way off. Looks like I'm going to. Taking it all the way off, I'm just going to get it started, get it threaded in that nut. I'm going to get it just enough to where I can get my screwdriver onto it, my power drill, and then do that trick I showed you. That should be good. You want to be mindful of how these cables are going around the rods. You don't want to do anything weird, so I'm just going to do some wire management right now. There we go. I don't want anything to get trapped in between the rods. Okay, so got it on there. Now I'm bringing it down to the motor shaft, the Z-axis motor shaft. I'm going to go ahead and press that down onto that shaft. There. And get another zip tie. Little tight quarters here. Nothing we can't handle. And then now I'm looking to secure it onto the actual motor shaft, because we already got it connected. Now I'm not going to be able to use my gun in here. So usually what I do is I'll use a couple different needle nose pliers, and I'll kind of press against the nub as I'm pulling. Okay, that feels pretty good. Cut that off. Now I'll use my trick. Actually, before I do that, in your upgrade will be a motor extension cable. So I'll get that out. I want to make sure I'm lining up all the colors. Blue to blue, yellow to yellow, green to green, red to red. And then I want to put it back in the same connector on the electronic board. And I want to make sure I'm looking at all the other connectors. Red is on the right for all these, and so I'm going to do it the same. Put that on there. So that's just giving me a little extra room on this Y-axis, so I can go up higher where I wouldn't have been able to before. So opening up that chuck, I'm going to bring it down onto it, and now I'm just going to loosen it. I'm going to go counterclockwise. Don't want to go too fast because you could actually blow or burn out that motor, the bearings in the motor. So just do it at kind of a moderate pace. But that's a lot easier to do than with your hands. Your hands will cramp up if you try to do it on your own. But actually, you could also, another technique you could do is actually just plug it in to your computer and tell it to keep going and home the Z-axis, and then it'll do it all on its own. So you have that option as well. So I'm going to go ahead and stuff some of this wiring down in this hole on the top plate of the simple box. Okay, now that we've completed the Z-axis volume upgrade, now we're going to focus on the X-axis. And to do that, we need to take those two 10-inch smooth rod that you removed off of your Z-axis. Now we're going to use them for the X-axis. And we're going to take off the bed levelers to begin with. So we can access the rod, get the rods out of there, and start blowing out that volume so we can print larger objects. Okay, we got our springs here. Go ahead and keep those over here. And we're going to have new fishing line in the volume upgrade, so we don't have to worry really about trying to save this line that's already on the bot. And I'm going to try to face this towards the camera so you can see what I'm doing a little bit more. So here we go. You could use something to hold onto that nut, but I just use my fingers. It's easiest. I'm going to go ahead and flop it now. And on this side we have a washer. So usually here in the shop when we're assembling these, we tie off and we tighten the other side, which if you're facing the print bed, it's going to be the right side of the fishing line. I'm going to just drop that. And then you go over and pull this and stretch this side out and tighten this side with a washer. It helps you tighten it better. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and get my micro cutters. I'm going to free up these rods. Set them free. There we go. We won't need those anymore. We got our 10-inch bars in here. There we go. Let's go ahead and put those right through the bearings. Make sure everything's working pretty smooth. And then we're going to get our wood out of the bag. We're going to deal with the print platform first. Okay, we're going to grab this M3 10mm screw and we are going to screw it into the bottom side of this print platform. We want to go just about past the surface just a little bit, so that as we put it on the rods, it'll slide right in. I don't know if you can hear that click, but that's what you want to hear. That will home the X-axis. Okay, so now we want our zip ties, which we can get out of the bag. We provide you with extra zip ties so you don't have to try to recycle your past ones. That's not possible. So you want to go, let's see, let's put this on its side, make it easier for ourselves so you guys can see at home. We want to go from the top, under, trapping the bar, and the nub is going to secure on the top. Okay, go ahead and do this one. Doesn't necessarily have to be on any side. Sometimes I like to face them all out, face them all in, so there's somewhat of a pattern to them, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. There's really no reason to. So I like to use zip tie gun. Make sure it can get that nice and tight where I can't, and that actually just slipped out. So I'm going to redo that one. That to zip tie a little bit. Now I'm going to cut off my micro cutters down to the nub of the zip tie and do the same procedure on this other side. You may need to spread the bars a little bit depending on the exact length of your bars, because not every bar is cut exactly at 10. So what I just did there was I evened out the bars between the slots of this print platform. Up. Okay. So now what we want to attack is the fishing line. Get that resecured. If you're doing this for the first time, this will be helpful. If you already did it before, you kind of are a pro and know what to do. But as I'm looking at my Printrbot Simple, I'm going to secure the right side first. Tie that off with a knot, a couple knots actually, and then I'm going to wrap it around and then secure it to this side and tighten this side down. But I'll start here on the right. This side on the right doesn't get a washer, because if you were to put a washer on it, it would actually start rubbing against this area right here, the housing of the right side of the bot, and we don't want that. So I'm going to grab a 10mm M3 hex nut and star washer, so that tightens onto itself. Now let's go ahead and flip this on its side so we can see it. I'll get it started. It looks like it's loose, so that's okay. I just want to make sure a little bit of the head is away from the wood so that I can get the string around it and tie a knot. So I'm going to put the star washer on first, and then I'm going to put the M3 hex nut on there so that it tightens itself nice and tight. So I'm not going to tighten that just yet. I'm going to get the end of my string or my fishing line. And you really want to focus on, if I'm tightening this, I want to make sure I'm tightening the line. So I'm going to want to do it hanging out the long side of the fishing line, hanging out this side, so when I am tightening that nut, it's tightening the string against where it's going. So I'll put that on there. Just do a real simple knot on here. I don't know what it's called, but our CEO, Brooke Drum, showed it to me. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking it and I'm going to twist it a couple times. I'm going to put it on here on the head, and then I'm going to pull it back through the opening, and then tie it onto itself. Okay, did that. I'm going to do another quick little knot, make sure it's set, so it has no ability to move from itself. Go ahead and get a couple needle nose pliers, if you got them, just to make sure I'm real nice and tight with that knot. Or is it taut? I don't know. Real nice and taut. Now I'm going to go ahead and tighten it on there. Okay, so that's good. I'm going to stand the Simple back up. Man, we got some nice flies here. They'd like to visit us. I'm actually going to cut off the extra down here so it's groomed a little bit. I'm just doing that with a utility knife. Okay, so we're going to make sure that we get this nice and tight. We want to make sure that it's housed all the way to the far left. This platform is the far left. And if you're trying to do this while it's here, you're going to struggle, and you want to be able to pull it tight. And the wood trapping against those bearings is a nice fit for this step. So we'll go ahead and try to, specifically for the volume upgrade, we want to make sure that we go back as far as possible on this motor shaft, which has the sandpaper on it, which is nice for grip. I'm going to go ahead and use both hands, fingers to route this around the motor shaft. And there we go. And as we do this, I'm going to each time make sure to pull nice and tight on this shaft, if I can make it happen. Sometimes you need to use some needle nose pliers to get down further. I've found sometimes you need to do that. There we go. Got it nice down. I'm going to try to move it back a little bit because you're moving a lot farther than you used to if you had a standard stock simple. Okay, so now I'm not pulling nice and tight. Again, I'm going to push it back. So you can only do probably about 2 wraps around this, when before on the stock simple you might have been able to do like 3 to 4. Now that we're moving such a great distance on this x-axis, it's going to want to move towards the front as you move to the right. So you got to be aware of that. You got to be careful with that. You'll frustrate yourself if you wrap it too many times right now, and then try to move it. It'll just travel right off the front of that shaft. So 2 will probably be the magic number for you. I'm going to just leave this over on the side for now because I need to get my 10mm M3 in there ready for me. And again, just like the other side, actually unlike the other side, we want the washer on this one, so I'm going to put the washer on it now. Okay. Then on the back side, I'm going to use again a star washer. Let's see, star washer and then a nut, the hex nut, M3 hex nut. So actually I don't need this because I'm just going to get it started. So I want to be able to get behind that washer so I can tighten it. Okay, so at this point I want to get it nice and tight. So I'm going to wrap it around my finger a couple times. And I'm going to put it behind. Let's see if I can turn this so you can see this better. Awesome. Okay, so now I'm going to make sure that I'm getting this line, this fishing line. Again, I wrapped it a few times around my finger. My finger's turning purple. That's good. That means it's working. And I want to get that line between the washer and the wood, and I'm pulling real nice and tight. And I'm going to go around it 2 times. You're almost getting a note out of that line. So now I'm going to put it on the other finger and bring it around to the back. Now I'm going to push my thumb on that nut. And I made sure to wind it this way, so clockwise. So I started on the left side of the washer and went clockwise, so that when I tighten this M3, I'm going to actually use my power drill. When I tighten it, it's going to tighten that string. It's going to start torquing on that string. So I have it tight with my finger in my right hand. I'm using my right hand thumb to push on the nut, and now I'm going to bring in the power drill to tighten up this guy. So that's nice and tight now. You can hear that. You can hear that note, which is good. I think that's an A flat for you musicians out there. Okay, now I want to make sure that it's not going to slip ever, so I'm going to go ahead and bring it through with just another simple knot, tie it onto itself. I'm going to do that a couple times. Okay. Eureka, we are there. So now I will bring it down. Now with that we got this together, we want to make sure that it's going to move and not move off the front. So 2 wraps looks like it worked just fine on this. 3 might have worked if you're a betting man or woman, but I would stick with 2 for that. So now that I've proved that, I can go ahead and cut off this extra fishing line. There we go. It's nice and clean. Now let's get our bed on there so it's ready to print. And I want to go ahead and put on exactly what we had before. Get the springs on there. I usually do 1 side at a time, so I'm not trying to frustrate myself with 4 springs on there and they're popping out. Trust me, I've done it. It's not that fun. And I'm going to use a star washer on the back side with a M3 hex nut. There we go. And by hand I'll just kind of thread that in there. Yeah, that one's on. So there you go. that's the volume upgrade for the Simple. Now you can print much larger, taller objects. This is Jeremy from Printrbot.com here at the headquarters, and we wish you happy printing.